can see the entire area is polished. And we brush on this tinning butter. And what this does is, it just tins the material. There's an acid in it, and it prepares the surface for to accept the lead. We put on a big area, and what we're going to do is heat this up, and it melts the tinning butter, and we just wipe it off. And that takes a little while. I'm not going to videotape that, but all we do is heat it up. It turns into acid and lead, and it makes the surface spotless for the lead. And we'll continue after I do that. So now you can see the whole surface has been tinned. There's a flux in there that etches into the steel, and it's mostly lead in the paste. And once it heats up, the acid etches into the metal, the steel, leaving behind a very pure lead base for the lead to stick to, which we will do now. Now, in order to do a leading, what we need is our lead paddle, which is a spreading paddle, and we have some wax here, and all the wax does is put a surface on our maple paddle just to make sure that the lead doesn't stick. We have bars of lead. These are just raw lead. I believe they are 30-70, 70% lead, 30% tin. Almost like solder, but there's no flux. And a propane torch. So what we'll do is light our torch. Now I'm going to be using a lot of little pieces that I had left over, and all it consists is of heating up the area to a point where the lead is going to start to melt and stick. But you see it happens very quick. We melt the lead to fill in the area. Now the metal is going to expand because it's so thin. So the sheet metal is going to expand on us. We'll leave a puddle of lead there. We'll just take this one and melt it right into the surface right here. You can see it melt very quick. It'll melt and fill in this entire area. This is a good opportunity to use all the little pieces that I've had left over from the other areas where I had to do some leading. You just can't hold on to little pieces when you're doing big spots, so I'm going to use these all up. Okay, see, so I'll start to run. It's almost like heating up butter with a blow dryer. It's very, very difficult to control. But the first objective is to get the lead in here and to get it the amount that you need to fill. Then we'll work with it. We'll use it to form and shape as soon as we get this all melted in. It happens very quick. It's actually quicker than bondo because you don't have to mix it. It doesn't have to dry. It cools immediately. It is a little more difficult in the sense that it will deform the metal, and you're heating it up, so it will cause a little headache for you there. But you're not heating the metal past the yield point. You're just melting the lead, and it will shrink right back to wherever position you need. Okay, now what we need to do is take this, and you can see the paddle as it goes over. We've got to heat this up to a point where it's melted, but it's not melted. It's almost to a butter consistency. And we're just going to use this to spread it around a little bit. Get the sticking areas where it's not sticking. And keep it just. No, that's perfect. Now it's just about to melt, but it's not melting. You can work with it. It's almost like spreading butter, keeping the heat control to fill in the areas, shaping it much like you would shape bondo with a spreader. Controlling how it looks, trying to shape it. Let's see if we can work on this area here a little bit. Heat it up so it's like butter. It's like a very delicate procedure to heat it and unheat it. You know, just when it's about to melt, and then you flatten it out. And right there, just like butter. It's just working out just perfect there. A little bit too hot. You gotta let it cool. Drag it around. Let it cool down. Put the heat in certain spots so we get that to. Every once in a while, your paddle catches on fire. You're sort of mixing heat with the paddle, and you gotta try to be careful there. We got an area here where we're just a little short of some lead, so we'll melt some more into this area. Let's see if I can move this over so you can see better. But we'll get that in there. Fill that in. Very nice. And you're gonna overfill it. You don't want to leave it flush, because then you have to fill it with something else. So I want to leave this just a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to melt a little bit on top. And I'm not going to be surprised if we're interrupted soon. Someone's going to open the garage door and say something, because no one knows we're in here. But anyway, I'll put some more in here. Put some more filler because we got to shape the hood a little bit more. We need to grind to shape over on this side. Fill them in. Okay, so now I would say we're pretty close. We'll just do a little bit more here because I think we're going to have a low spot there. I'm just fill in a little more lead. Put a little more in here. Okay, mash her down. A little more filler there. Just work the paddle, nice and smooth. Once you see how it fills it in nice and easy. And we have the mess of the bondo, and we have a metal-to-metal bond here. So this is a permanent repair versus a bondo repair. So now as that solder cools, or as the lead cools, it'll turn opaque. It doesn't take long, which is the equivalent of the bondo drying. We'll use some air here. Just want to cool this down. Okay. Now we can grind it and shape it with a grinder to make it flat, just like you would bondo. Since those areas are so low, one little one there, you see that little one right there is probably about less than a 1/16 of an inch. They're just barely below the surface, and it's still pretty hot, but you can feel it just below the surface. I think we're best off doing plastic filler there. You did use an acid. You can see some of the acid is still around the outside here. And if we left that there, that acid would corrode. We have a lot of rust there after a short period of time. So we just take, we got a mixture here. I'll show you just water and baking soda. We're going to neutralize the acid here. We're going to clean this up. Just spread it around by hand. By the time we get to this point, the acid is fairly harmless. So we're not going to worry too much about it. You can scrub it with a steel wool pad if it's necessary, if you got a lot of scale. But we're looking pretty good there. And we just come back, wipe it with a paper towel. Pretty dirty. It's just the lead and the flux coming off.